You know, maybe we should have more White House shakeups because every time we have a dust-up, stocks go up. And right now, teasing 22,000. We got Market Watch's Bob Wiedemer and Heather Zamora. Heather, what's going on here?
You said it right, Neil. The markets just don't seem to care, right? We're up by 82 points on the Dow as we speak. And since the election, we haven't seen anything happen down here in terms of tax reform and health care reform being passed, yet the markets have headed higher.
You know, I know, Bob, there's a real interest and respect for earnings, as it should be. And the earnings have been off the charts. In the end, will that continue to drive this market, even if tax cuts don't materialize?
Well, earlier I wouldn't necessarily say so. It's possible now. I mean, the market's been pretty good at ignoring bad news, as you just pointed out. In fact, when earnings were poor in 2015 and even parts of 2016, they didn't really care too much. So it's good at ignoring bad news. It could continue to do that. But when you come to White House chaos, Obamacare is one thing, but I think raising the debt ceiling might be a different issue.
In other words, if they don't do that or it causes logjams like we've seen in the past, all bets are off. Is that what you're saying?
I would say so. I think it's, again, market can overlook bad news to a point, but we'll have to see here.
Heather, across the board, sectors have dutifully gone up and down. When tech lost its wind, you know, financials came to the fore. But this is something that shows the strength of a bull market when something like that happens. What underpinnings are you looking at that do worry you, though?
I think, well, that worry me. The debt ceiling debacle, if we come to a resolution and the government does not shut down, although that would help my morning commute down here in D.C., it's the sell-off in the markets during any of these debt ceiling debates seems to be short-lived. Now, Bob may have some other evidence pointing to a further downdraft in the market versus a one-day pullback, but perhaps his selling would be someone else's buying. I mean, sign me up. The market has just kept heading higher. Every dip in the market has been bought since February of 2016, since we declined 11%. So we'll get a pullback. It's just a matter of when that timing is going to happen.
You know, Bob, Alan Greenspan in an interview, I think with Bloomberg, talked about a bubble, not in stocks, but in bonds, and that these low interest rates, they're unnaturally low, severely so. And that's his big worry. Is it yours?
Yeah, yeah, of course, he's a Federal Reserve Chairman. That should be his big worry. I mean, he was a Federal Reserve Chairman. But and I think there is some issue there. But I think there is still, let's look at stocks. Between 1950 and 1982, stocks went nowhere. That's 30 years of a period of enormous growth and an enormous infrastructure technology change. You collected dividends, but that was basically it. But between 1982 and today, we're up about 1,000%. Again, I don't know if Heather's right that boy, we're going to blow or something's going to go wrong here. But I've got to ask Heather, what the heck's going on there? Why this massive increase in valuation during a period where economic growth hasn't been nearly as strong?
Or you could average it out, average it out for all of those decades, and maybe it's not so bad.
The economic growth has been slow, but we just got a GDP print of 2.6%, which is somewhat helping when we've averaged 2.1%, which is anemic. I get it, since the recession. But the fundamentals of the market, I think, have something to do with driving valuations higher, being that earnings growth is up 12.5%. But I get your point is that somewhere in the future, earnings have to keep going up and up and up to sustain these valuations. But we're nowhere near 2000, the tech bubble of 2001, when it burst 2000 levels.
No, but why did we not go anywhere from 1950 to 1982? You know, just dividends. So it's a very different valuation
We're way
scenario.
too young to remember that.
So true.
Yeah, right.
So true.
Yeah, and I'll continue lying right after this. The latest on hackers hitting some